Trump wanted unconditional surrender from Iran when he started the war, and he ended up surrendering himself to Iran. Why did Trump accept such bad terms for the US as part of the Iran-US memorandum of understanding? He's giving Iran $24 billion of their frozen assets back. He's going to unfreeze that. He's immediately stopping the naval blockade without even Iran opening the Strait of Hormuz yet. It's going to happen on Friday. He's accepting that Iran will control the Strait of Hormuz with Oman, and in 60 days, they can charge service fees. And most importantly, he's not only unsanctioning Iran's oil, but he's unsanctioning banking related to that oil, which means that Iran now can actually receive the cash from those oil sales into its bank accounts in Iran. Before, when Iran was selling the unsanctioned oil, it can't receive that cash. It had to kind of exchange it with other goods that China provides. But now it can actually receive the cash, which is the biggest leverage that the US had on Iran. This is all happening just for Iran opening the Strait of Hormuz for the next 60 days while they negotiate an actual deal. There's two reasons why Trump had to concede and really surrender to Iran. Number one, the US has used most of its ammunitions, its weapon regarding its defense capability to shoot out those drones and missiles that Iran hits Israel and the region with, but also to carry out its kinetic warfare, whether that is through jets or other means. US has used about 50 to 90% in some cases of their ammunition, especially those advanced missiles that the jets use where they can go for 500 kilometers, so they can actually hit Iranian targets without entering Iran. A lot of that has been used, these JASSM extended range missiles. So starting the war again right now, the US would start it from a much weaker point where they're not able to do the massive, damage that they did as part of the early war, which didn't actually result in any of their objectives being achieved, which is regime change and degrading their missile capability and getting their nuclear material and all that. But more importantly is that the U.S.'s strategic reserves, this is the oil that the U.S. has in its storage that it's releasing into the economy to ensure that prices are not high of oil and that there are no oil shortages. That's going to be depleted in 60 days because it's using so much of its strategic reserve oil that we're going to hit tank bottom in 60 days. Now, for a ship to go from the Gulf all the way to the US to be refined into diesel and gasoline, that takes about 40 to 60 days. And therefore, if the Strait of Hormuz is not open right now, they're going to deplete their strategic reserves of the US, and there's going to be oil shortages right before the midterm elections in November in the US. So he had to do anything to open the Strait of Hormuz and give Iran whatever they want. That's how much leverage Iran had. But the funny thing is that if it wasn't for Israel, he wouldn't have given that many concessions. On Sunday last week, they were still arguing about the text of the word. But once Israel attacked Beirut, which was Iran's red line, they said that if Israel's going to attack Beirut, we're going to retaliate against Israel. And they were getting ready to retaliate. And the US came to Iran and said, okay, we'll give you the $24 billion of your frozen assets right now. Just don't retaliate. Iran said, no, we're going to retaliate. Until US said that we're going to put as part of the memorandum of understanding that Israel is going to withdraw from Lebanon. That's when Iran agreed to the memorandum of understanding. Now, why did Iran actually agree anything with the US? Did they not learn their lesson that every time they negotiate with the US tries to kill them, kill their people, their leadership? The US can't be trusted. There's two reasons why Iran did this right now. Number one, they know that every day that the US doesn't meet the conditions or concessions they gave to Iran, Iran can immediately close the Strait of Hormuz again. And the US cannot afford any more delays in opening the Strait of Hormuz. Because the only reason why oil prices are not high and there isn't any oil shortages is because the US is using its strategic reserves for oil, its oil storage facility or storage, to release as much oil as possible into the system to avoid the impact from the supply disruption that we're having from the Strait of Hormuz. That oil storage, the strategic reserve, is going to finish in 60 days. And it takes about 40 to 60 days for oil tankers to go from the Gulf all the way to the U.S. refineries so that they can be refined into gasoline and diesel. And so any delays in opening the Strait of Hormuz is going to result in oil shortages right before the midterm elections in the U.S. And so the U.S. has to meet those conditions that they gave to Iran because Iran has pretty much cornered them. And the second very important factor is China. China has asked Iran to give the diplomatic route one more chance. And if it doesn't work out, China is going to give Iran even more support than before. Now, we all know that China has been giving intelligence and Russia has been giving intelligence to Iran, allowing it to hit high-value targets all across the Gulf area and Israel. But we also learned this week that China has provided advanced missile capability to Iran. And Iran showcased that when Trump tried to kind of bully them to get into an agreement last week by attacking a few things in Iran, and Iran retaliated by attacking U.S. assets and Israel last week. Now, reports are saying there was great damage and the precision was very high. Iran's missile capability is now better than before the war. And it seems, based on those reports, is that China has said that will give you even more support. Try to get into a diplomatic solution one more time with the U.S. And that's going to change the game completely even for Iran, because now they have even a stronger deterrence than before the war. And they can cause more damage in Israel and the U.S. And it seems like the U.S. understands that now, and therefore doesn't want to escalate at the moment. But a lot of people are missing that for China, Iran is very important. And the U.S. attacking Iran is, in a way, the U.S. attacking China indirectly. Because aside from the fact that Iran supplies a lot of China's oil imports, and the U.S. has already taken Venezuela, was a big exporter to China, and if they try to take Iran out, that would be another flow of oil to China going away. And they got a lot of cheap oil from Iran. But also, the strategic location of Iran makes it very important for the Belt and Road Initiative that China has planned for the region. China has created a rail corridor that goes all the way from China to Iran and then up to Eastern Europe and Russia. And that has reduced rail by transport by 20 days compared to if they took the maritime kind of route. See over here, this goes all the way from Xi'an. This is the One Belt, One Road initiative, railroad that goes all the way across to Iran and then to Istanbul, to either Moscow or to Europe. And that avoids, if they took the maritime route, that avoids the Strait of Malacca, the Strait of Hormuz, or even the Suez Canal. And the objective of this is very important. It's not just about reducing the time by 20 days, or if they take even the north-south corridor, which is from India to Iran to Moscow or to Europe, which is reducing the time by 40%. It's not just about saving time. It's about bypassing the U.S. naval power. You know, the waters around the world are pretty much controlled by the most powerful navy, which is the U.S. Navy. And so China is finding out these routes to avoid the U.S. Navy in case there is a conflict, and to avoid these choke points, such as the Strait of Malacca, which can easily be closed, Strait of Hormuz, which again can be closed, or the Suez Canal. So it's taking these land routes, which save time, but also avoids the U.S. Navy. That's why Iran is so important to China, and is supporting it, and will make sure that Iran doesn't fall. And the Gulf areas, the Middle Eastern countries, are now waking up to this fact, to how much support Iran gets from Russia and China, and how Israel is now losing power across the whole world, really. And Iran is gaining power and has support from the world powers that are Russia and China. And Iran is trying to do something with this agreement with the U.S. It's trying to disconnect Israel and the U.S. This deal is very bad for Israel. I mean, the fact that they put in the memorandum of understanding, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's clear that it's part of that, is that Israel has to withdraw from Lebanon. It's occupying Lebanon right now. Now, the U.S. cannot control what Israel does. They cannot control what Benjamin Netanyahu does. And Benjamin Netanyahu needs to escalate in Lebanon and stay in Lebanon in order to win the elections in October. And if he doesn't win the elections in October, he's going to probably go to prison, because he's in court for bribery and fraud, and the only way to avoid that is if he continues to be the prime minister. So for him, it's kind of like be in prison or not be in prison. And so he's going to try his best possible way to sabotage this agreement with the U.S. But if he tries to sabotage the situation with the U.S., and if the U.S. supports Israel when Iran retaliates against Israel, then Iran's going to close the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran's going to have more leverage than before because the U.S. has depleted its strategic reserves. And so it cannot do what it did at the start of the war, which is release all this extra supply into the system because they've used up the buffer during this period of war. And so they have to have the Strait of Hormuz open. And so that's the understanding from Iran, is basically saying that, one, if Israel tries to sabotage the situation, well, the whole world's going to see that Israel's trying to destabilize not just the region, but the whole world economy. And two, we're going to fight Israel by ourselves. And we don't want America to be involved in this because Israel cannot fight a war with Iran by itself. It needs American intelligence, obviously, but also equipment, ammunition, defense capability to defend itself and to carry out those attacks. And if the U.S. stops that from happening, then Israel's in big trouble. Now, the question is Trump going to do that? Trump can do that, but I don't think he's going to do that. We're going to see, because Congress will not allow it to happen. But almost Iran is hoping that Israel tries to sabotage this, because then they could link the closure of the Hormuz, the ability not to get into a peace deal, the destruction to the world economy to Israel. And to actually ensure that American people know that the economic hardship that they're going through is because of Israel. That's an objective for Iran. So almost they're hoping Israel does something, because it won't be, the failure of these talks won't be blamed on Iran, or will be blamed on Israel. Now, we all know that this 60 days of negotiation that they're gonna start once they sign the memorandum of understanding on Friday isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be extended, because in 60 days, you're not going to get into a nuclear agreement. It took more than a year, I think 2 years, for Obama to actually get into an agreement with Iran on their nuclear. But Iran now has so much more leverage than before, during the Obama era. It has much more support from its friends, China and Russia. And so U.S. is not going to be able to achieve anything in terms of the nuclear concessions to be given by Iran at a time when Iran has maximum leverage on the U.S. with the Strait of Hormuz. And so this is going to be extended, the 60 days, and extended until there's not going to be any actual agreement. And so this whole talk about this $300 billion fund that's going to be given to Iran, that's not going to happen. Because for that to happen, they need to get into a final nuclear agreement. And I don't see that happening. But they're still getting $24 billion of their frozen assets. They're still getting quite a bit of money from the Gulf countries that's coming out now. Some of the Gulf countries have given Iran money so they can pass their ships across. Of course, the U.S. has approved that. And as part of their talks, there might be given even more of their frozen assets to be unfrozen. We don't know the details of that yet. But the biggest for Iran is the unsanctioning of their oil completely, and any banking related to that, so they can actually get the cash inside their country, which was the biggest, one of the biggest sanctions on Iran is that. And so at the same point when Iran has maximum leverage on the U.S. with the control of the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. is giving away its maximum leverage, which is the sanctions on the oil and the related banking and services to that oil income. It's truly unbelievable. And then people are saying, will Iran give up on Hezbollah? And people don't understand the relationship between Iran and Hezbollah, because in the media, we're always told that Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. A proxy means that Iran controls Hezbollah and will tell them and will use them almost for Iran's objective. But we saw the past couple of weeks that Iran didn't get into a deal with the U.S. because of Israel attacking Hezbollah, i.e. they gave up and nearly stopped the peace deal, the agreement, to secure the safety of Lebanon and Hezbollah. If there was a strong relationship before with the previous supreme leader of Khamenei, between Hezbollah and Iran, now there's even a stronger relationship, because Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, the current supreme leader, is part of the very strong relations with the IRGC, and the IRGC are very strong with Hezbollah. They fought together in many wars. They fought against ISIS in Iraq. Most people don't even know that. And you can hear it in his speeches. He's talking about the unity arena. It's not the axis of resistance. It's the unity of arena. You're united together. And they said it many times, Lebanese blood is like our blood. And so they're not going to give up on Hezbollah. And they're almost trying to make sure that the U.S. is out of this war, so then they can make sure that if Israel does anything, there's going to be a strong retaliation without U.S. involvement. Now, whether that's going to happen or not is a different question. I mean, a lot of us always thought that this is going to backfire for the U.S. But I don't think we expected it's going to backfire so much so quickly. They only had a 39-day kinetic war. In 39 days, this all happened. Why? Because Iran was prepared. And the U.S. misjudged Iran. That's what happens when you make fun of the enemy, when you look down at them. You misjudge them. Iran has been preparing this since 2003. It knew this day was always going to happen, that Israel was always going to one day have its way to convince the U.S. to carry out those attacks. And I think people also misjudge the support that Iran has from China, from Russia, because they see how strategic Iran is. I mean, Iran shares a border with Russia. And there's only one country between China and Russia and Iran, which is Pakistan. So it's very strategic for those countries to support Iran against anyone that's trying to cause a civil war or destroy the country. And so China supports Iran not just with the whole attack with the U.S., but with Israel, because it understands. I mean, if you hear the Israeli politicians, what they're saying is that we're never going to stop with Iran. We're always going to try to do something with Iran until the regime is changed and falls. I.e., we're always going to threaten you, Iran. At any moment we see we can threaten you, we can kill your leadership, we're going to try to do it. So that's not just a threat to Iran, that's a threat to China, given the One Belt Initiative and how much oil that Iran has. So this is a new Middle East where Iran now is the regional power and the U.S. has conceded. Now, what happens after the midterm elections can be very different. The U.S. might restart the war or give the green light for Israel to restart their war with U.S. support. But for now, for the next couple of months, Iran has the maximum leverage, at least for the next 60 days. And so they're going to get as much as they can from the U.S. And they're not going to give something before giving that thing, get something from the U.S. Because they've learned their lesson with the U.S. of, you need to do, with the JCPOA, it's Iran who had to do so many things first. And then the U.S. was able to give concessions. And in many instances, they never actually ended up giving those concessions, even though Iran met all the conditions. And then even when Iran met the conditions, Trump came, ripped that agreement apart. So for Iran, they have that experience. And that's why this memorandum of understanding is framed and understood in a way where the U.S. first has to do something, and then Iran will do something. And we saw this example. The U.S. first had to open the U.S. blockade, stop the U.S. blockade, without Iran having to do anything. They haven't even opened the Strait of Hormuz yet. It's a first step by the U.S., and then comes the second step by Iran, which is opening the Strait of Hormuz. And then as soon as they open the Strait of Hormuz, or start the process of opening the Strait of Hormuz, Iran gets either, we're not sure, there's 12 billion immediately or 24 billion of their frozen assets immediately. And then Iran does something in return. That's the relationship that they have with the U.S. Now, if you did like this video, do hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.